welcome to the Choir Director Academy show. I'm your host, Angella Elaine. We are broadcasting live from IntellectualRadio.com. So glad to be here on tonight. This is our first show with them, and so I'm excited. So if you hear anything that's kind of like slow or bloopy, ignore it. I'm just nervous because this is a whole new setup. I'm excited for the things that are going on today. I want to give a shout out to my Facebook Live family. You have been with me from the beginning, and I'm so glad to see you all tuning in. Do what we always do, fam. Like, share, tag everybody, and let them know that the Choir Directors Academy is on the air. So good to see each of you on tonight. As I said, we got a new venture, and it's always exciting when you got new things going on. Life is beautiful. This is 2020, and I wanted to do something different. Didn't know that this opportunity was going to come, but with greatness, and when you're doing things that you love, great things always happen, and that's a wonderful thing. So don't forget to like and share. Those of you who are listening to us on IntellectualRadio.com, yay! Tune in every week at the same time. We will be here discussing things that are relevant to being a choir director. This show started about a couple of years ago because a lot of people have thoughts about what it is like to be a choir director, and we want to share information and let them know that it goes more than just what we see on TV or whatever, what we see people do, but there really is a lot going on behind the scenes. And tonight we're going to talk about managing a music department. I just want to give a couple of shout outs to Directress Carter, to Aaron Small, to my mom, and to others that are out there. I see you. The numbers are growing. I appreciate you joining in with us. The song that you just heard is new music that is coming out by Tracy Smith, and that was written and produced by my cousin, Sam Scott. And some of you that are in the music industry know he is a well-known artist, musician, writer, producer. And I told him, I said, I need something for my first day. And he sent me this, and I'm glad that he did. And it's a very good song, and it's coming out in April. So be on the lookout for it. Today's topic: managing a music department, setting the house in order. And I was thinking, the success of any organization, it doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're discussing, what you're creating, all of it requires organization. And the choir is no different. Sometimes we look, when we have a vision in our mind and we say, I want my choir to sound like this. I want them to look like this. I want them to respond. When I raise my hand, everybody comes in and sings at one time or in their different positions or whatever. You're looking for a successful choir. But in order for that to happen, you need organization. The choir is only as good as its leader. And if the leader is not organized, to say the least, then the choir won't be as well. And I was thinking, if some people look at the choir, and I was watching the choir on the other week, and I'm not a critiquer. I've always searched for the best in everything. And I was looking at them the other week, and I saw the director doing a whole lot of different things, doing the calisthenics that we see the professional people do. I'm gonna put it that way, because we're all good at what we do, but there are some people who are on the global scene. And the focus was spent so much on doing all of the calisthenics, and the choir was not responding. And I was kind of sitting there going, dude, don't you see? They're not even following what you're saying. Don't you hear the altos are out? Don't you hear the tenors? They're missing the words, And so when I talked, had a conversation on the side, and it was just like, well, I trying to do like this person and that person. There was no organization in anything that they were doing. And I was kind of like, okay, then we need to talk. We need to get in, we need a sideline conversation. I need to mentor you so that you can understand really what your job is, what your function is. And you need to understand that there is a systematic organization with the basic choir. We have our music departments, and they're kind of small. The average one you have your main music department, and then you may have 4 or 5 other sub departments in there, okay? Which would consist of the choir, your staff, and then you got your the actual choir, and then you got your musicians. Right. And then you got your musicians. And each of them have a specific task that they do. But being the leader of them, there are certain things that you need to have that are part of you in order to make everything flow smoothly. And I was thinking, first of all, as a choir director, you need to be organized. And that's something that I'm beginning to see a lot of people are not focusing on, being organized. Whenever you stand in front of the choir, people don't realize that they see you, everything about you, from your appearance, which is part of it, but also they see the confidence level come off from you. And I was thinking sometimes I can come to rehearsal and I can have on the denim and whatever, but they know within me that I have a plan when I walk in the door. This is what we're going to do. I've already sent you the link for the songs. We already have everything planned out. So when I come in, I'm already focused and driven. I know we only have a certain amount of time. And I know that you only have a certain amount of time as far as psychology with people. They can only tune in and listen so long. And then it's like mind overload. And then they're like, off. Some of them are hungry, some of them are sleepy, some of them are whatever. So they're going to lose it. So you only have a certain amount of time. So you need organizational skills so that you can make an effective use of all of your time. And I was thinking also, you have to be knowledgeable in what you do. You can't, and when I say that, your knowledgeableness cannot just be music. You understand what I'm saying? Like sometimes when I'm talking to you, I'm not just using musical terms because I have a vast of people listening. Everybody that's listening to my show is not in music. They're in other fields of study. But being able to learn from various other fields of study like psychology, science, or medicine, or law, or whatever, I'm able to take that information that I have and translate it and use it in a way to help me teach. So being able to draw from different genres, or from different ideas, or from different what am I trying to say? From different areas. Y'all bear with me today. I'm a little bit nervous because I got my producer sitting there looking at me with a smile on his face. With a smile on his face. But you have you have to be able to draw, because people can tell when or when you're a studier. They can tell that you know what you're talking about. And I seen somebody on here earlier say they know when you mean business when you come in. They know when you understand. They know when you know your craft. And it's a certain level of confidence that comes off. And you need to be able, I was thinking, my father always told me, he said that if you have a subject, if you can't explain it to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about, or you can't explain it to somebody that's 5-year-old and they walk away understanding what you do, then you really don't know your subject. Okay, so when you're teaching people, you need to be knowledgeable when you're leading people. And that doesn't mean that you know everything. Nobody knows everything, but you need to be confident in what you know and put in your study. What does the Bible tell us? That we need to study to show ourselves approved, that we be a workman not made ashamed. So you want to rightly divide the word of truth. Let me throw that in there for all the Bible scholars out there that say you didn't quote the whole thing. You need to study and be prepared when you stand in front of people. Also, you need to have an understanding. You need to understand how people think. Generally that's why generally when they select somebody to lead, they have already demonstrated leadership over whatever they gave them. It's just like in the Army. You have your squad leaders, you have your sergeant, you have your master sergeant, you have your sergeant majors, and then you get into the officers rank, but you have your lieutenants, your majors, your captains, and everybody else. Well, before you graduate to being a staff sergeant, you have to be a squad leader of 7 people and demonstrate to them that you're able to lead them. And when you're leading somebody, you have to have that type of excitement that pulls people in. If you think about the psychology today, people only follow folks that are excited and energetic and even if it's crazy. And we're seeing some crazy stuff today, and I'm not going to really get into that because one person just popped into my mind and we all know his number. Okay. But crazy stuff. But because you're excited and energetic in it, people will follow. They'll grab that and they'll run behind you. Same thing with the choir. As a leader, you need to be excited. You need to be involved in what you're doing, have a passion for it. And you need to have a vision. Know what you want to do with the choir. Don't just say, well, I just want them to get up and sing or whatever. It takes more to get them to the point where they sing. I was thinking when I had the choir, when we were preparing for How Sweet the Sound, which with Verizon Wireless was sponsoring, there was a lot of work and preparation that I had to do as the leader. All they had to do was the background. They just follow whatever I said. The musicians just follow whatever I said. But for me, there was a lot of studying and prayer, and of course, but then a lot of focus on the music, making sure that I understood the parts, making sure I understood how to play the music, just in case something happened to the musicians. I had to be able to, fill in or whatever. But there was a different aspect of music, of level of music that I got to, that I didn't even really know, oh my God, this is part of it too. I'm so used to just doing this little piece of it. But then I began to see that there's a whole lot more behind this. Just for that 4 minutes and 25 seconds, it was a wealth of knowledge and understanding that I needed before I could even get to that point. It's the same thing. If you want your music department to grow and to develop, then there's certain things that you need to make a part of you. So that when it's a part of you, whatever's in you basically will come out on your people. I can promise you that. Whatever you give out, you're going to get back at least anywhere. If you give out, say 100%, you're going to get back at least 70 to 80% from your crew. I can promise you that. Whatever you're doing. If you only get 60, you only get about 30 back. That's just how it works when it comes to choir, because people are motivated by what they see and what they hear. And if they don't see or hear what they need from you, then that's what they're only going to give back, certain amount. But when they see that you're like energetic, every week you coming in with the same thrust, with the same excitement, then they're going to do the same thing. After a while, they will catch on, because it was when I first started, I didn't really have structure. All I saw was what my mother did, because she was the choir director. So I saw what she did, and I tried to implement that. Well, it didn't work because that was her style. It wasn't mine. So I had to learn to develop a way of managing. And once they adopted, they actually seen, well, this kid actually kind of know what she's doing. And as I began to grow, then they began to grow with me. And it parlayed into other choir, the youth choir, the adult choir. And I end up being over the entire music department because I took the time to do what I had to do in studying. But you must set up your department. You must know exactly what you're trying to do, what your goal, what is your goal? And it can be a selfish one. You understand what I'm saying? Well, I just want to get my name out in the light, or I just want to be whatever. That is not going to work. What you want to do is be motivated by your passion. It should be your passion in music and whatever you're doing. You should be passionate about it. That's what drives you to do it every week, because you're passionate about it. And let me give some shout outs to my friend, because I got so many of them chiming in, and I don't want them to think that I'm not thankful. I'm not thankful for them. I want to I gave out to Directress and Aaron, but I also have Beverly Rutledge, Shanita Manning, my Uncle Jack. Oh my goodness. Kashan is out there. My mom, Elder Kevin McGee. He also has a show on Saturday called Connections. You can tune in on Saturday around noon, I believe, to IntellectualRadio.com, just in case you just tuned in. That's where you are, with IntellectualRadio.com, and also on Facebook Live. Zier is out there. And then we have Angel Jackson. We have Tim Marshall, Dennis Griffin, Sylvester Johns. Thank you. Christopher, my nemesis. He is out there. Shelly. Rochelle Matheny. She also has a show. I believe it's on Monday. Am I right, Michelle? Rochelle is on Monday at 6:00. Warriors Talk, dealing with cancers and dealing with all kinds of health things that we can do. And Bernard, Blonde, one of my former drummers from back in the day. He was actually with me when I won How Sweet the Sound. Robin Fetherston, I thank you all so much. Melissa, my sister, thank you all for joining me. You know your girl is nervous on today, right? But I'm doing this thing in the name of Jesus. Vasha Brown, he's another good minister of music. He's out there from Columbus, Georgia. I appreciate it. Christopher says, Bishop Hankerson said that 40 hours of studying for 30 minutes of preaching. If that's really what it takes, then people should take more time. So imagine how much preparation, prayer, and patience and penitence necessary for public music ministry. Absolutely. Yes, Christopher, I said that you were my nemesis. Absolutely. It takes much prayer and much study in order to be in front of people. And, you know, when I did, and not only for How Sweet the Sound, even when my choir sings at other churches, I can guarantee you I'm spending at least 20 hours listening to music, thinking, trying to figure out the best way to situate them so that I get the best sound. All of these different things come into play. But I want to get back to the structure. You're the choir director. You are over the entire department. You need to remember that. Not in arrogance, not like, hey, I'm in charge and you do what I say. No. He that is the greatest should be the servant of all. That has nothing to do with all that means is that you're responsible for the flops. If everything goes south, everybody's looking at you. If everything goes good, everybody's looking at you. If it's mediocre, everybody's looking at you. That's all that means. You got to take all the hits. Because the pastor's not taking it, the first lady, the deacon board is not taking it, everybody's looking at you. So that's all that means. You have a guaranteed spot. You got a target on you. That's all that means. But remember, you are in charge. So you can't be selfish and only think about yourself. You have to think about how what I'm doing is impacting the service or whatever we got on. Case in point, the average choir director, and I'm sure a lot of them can agree with me. On Sunday mornings, most choir directors are not thinking about, you know, what all these different, you know, you just basically thinking, hey, number one, we're here. I'm hoping everybody show up today. That's number one. Number two, you know, you're hoping that they remember the songs from the choir rehearsal that just happened yesterday. Because, you know, sometimes people get selective amnesia between Saturday and Sunday morning at 11:30. You standing there and you like, let's go. And they're sitting there looking at you like, what song was this? My pet peeve is when I'm standing there and I know we went over this song and this song is old as dirt. Okay. And then you looking at me saying, what's the note? I can't remember the note, or I can't remember the key, or I can't and you're looking like, so that's number two. You're just hoping that they halfway remember the song. And then you're hoping that everything kind of comes together and whatever I practice rolls. But then you also thinking, what if there's a shift in the service? I got to find a song that goes with what's going on in the service. And if the service is dry and everybody's sitting there half asleep, I need to come up with another song that's going to make the whole audience wake up. And then sometimes you're sitting there, the audience is awake and the choir is asleep. So it is like, well, what do I do now? So then, you know, sometimes what I do, if the choir is not giving me what I need, then I turn around and make the audience the choir. I tell, okay, all the sopranos, I don't care where you are. If you think you a soprano, let's work this. Okay. Alto, I get preachers. Kevin McGee knows I will go and I will turn around and look at the pulpit and say, all y'all singing today, because this is just not, I'm not getting what I need. So you have to know, you know, that's on your mind, improvising, you know. And then the pastor, if he gives you the sermon before the service, then you sitting there thinking, he gets up there, he goes a totally different way. And you're like, oh my God, you know. And then there's times in the service where you get people singing songs that you never heard. And you like, they like, oh, well, you know, and you know, I love God. I do. But they say, well, God gave me this song in the middle of the night. And you sitting there like, and then they look at you and say, help me with this choir director. And you looking like, what? I have no clue what you're talking. And you're like, oh my God, what is this? And then they looking at you to come in and make it up. And you got to make a choir. You got to make like a background. I mean, it's so many different pieces. This is what we go through every Sunday. So a lot of times we forget about structure. We forget about what we need to do. We're just trying to get through that Sunday and and make it to my house so I can sleep. I mean, honestly, that's what we're doing. I mean, well, okay, that's me. Every Sunday, I'm trying to figure out. I have a list of what I'm going to do, but then I got a list of what I can do just in case. Because you have to know your choir. You really need to know them. This is all part of managing. Sometimes we just think, well, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to run, but you can't do that all the time. Everything can't be set in stone. We would like for it to be that way, but all the times it can't be. So you need to have structure and know what you're doing. Now that's you as the director, because everybody else is going to follow whatever you do. The musicians are just going to sit there and wait for you to give the cue. The choir is going to sit there. And if you wait too long, they're going to end up sleeping, tapping out somewhere. But everybody's waiting on you. And then your staff. You should have you and then a staff and then the choir and the musicians. I'm not putting the musicians on the end. I'm a musician as well. So I know they are very important. They're actually part of the staff, but I separated them out because they're an entity by themselves. You need to rehearse with them by yourself, but that's a whole nother other show. But your staff, you need to have people selected, not because they're your buddies, but because they have a gift that can be beneficial to helping this choir go on. Because sometimes you as the director, you may not be able to be there, but you need people that can carry on in your absence. So your staff would be whoever your treasurer is, your secretary, but you have directors, people that should know something about music. You don't want directors up there that's tone deaf. You don't want nobody up there just because they look cute or they're handsome. You need somebody up there that actually knows if we're singing a song and then the sopranos or the alto, whoever, I don't pick on the altos, alto nation. I don't pick on them. Everybody picks on the altos. I'm going to the sopranos. They may be off. You need somebody that can stand there and straighten it out. Not just sit there and let it just keep going on and everybody's looking. You know what I'm saying? So you need to pick people that can help you push this department for your section leaders. There should be people that know how to do. You don't just pick people just out of random, because if you want this choir to be successful, then you need to set in order who you need, draw from the crowd. And that's another thing. You have to learn how to see your crowd and know who you can take and develop, because you need to be mentoring somebody. You need to know how to take them and develop them, see potential in a person, And another thing that as a leader, you have to have a good attitude when you're dealing with people. And one thing I tell directors, and I'm going to read some of these comments so people know that I'm not out here by myself. I tell people you have to watch your attitude when you have a choir. Nobody wants to sing for somebody that doesn't speak. You can't be a good director and you got all these issues going on the inside. You don't speak, I'm too wearing and wonderful. You report to me, you do what I say. You won't win them. You'll lose them. You will actually lose I'm telling you, you will lose the choir. You have to be a people person in order to be over a choir. You cannot be introverted and I don't like to talk to people. You can't be that way. You have to be inviting to people. That doesn't mean that you let them run over you, but you have to have a certain demeanor when you're over people. Not in arrogance, but in that I'm the leader, I'm organized, this is a way that we need to go, and you're going to help me get there. You understand what I'm saying? You can't. I see that with people all the time. Well, they walk in and there's a mass sitting there. You got 20, 30. Remember, these people are volunteers. So are you, but they are volunteers. They don't have to sing. They don't have to come. They don't have to participate. They can sit in the audience and look at you. And I don't care how grand and wonderful you are. If you don't have a choir, you directing by yourself. You just directing the app. And that's not fun. Trust me, that's not fun. If you're practicing your moves, that's one thing. But if you standing in front of a crowd and this is a mass choir and you only got 6 or 7 people, there's a problem. So your attitude has a lot to do with the choir growing, with the choir participating, and with them just doing their job. And even your staff, they feed off of you. The choir will feed off of you and the musicians. And we had the hymn-a-thon on last week. And the young man that was the guest musician, he mentioned that as a musician, the most frustrating thing is when you have a leader that's not communicating or who's not knowledgeable. That's frustrating to the musicians. It's frustrating to everybody that's within that department, and that's how you'll lose out. Bernard was saying that structure is very important. Exactly. Hey, Matthew, let me shout out Matthew, Aaron, Demetria, Brand Triplet. I must have said something. She said she spilt her tea. Oh, my goodness. Teamwork. Vansha Brown says, great advice in teaching. You're doing a great job. As always, teaching us about structure and being organized. Thank you, Vansha. And Melissa also gave me the same thing. Nikita is out there. Thank you all so very much for your words of encouraging. Avansha Brown said, you must be approachable, firm, but approachable. Fix your attitude and fix your spirit. Exactly. You have to have the right spirit. And the only way you can do that is if you seek God. This is, you're over a church choir, a gospel choir. God's got to be in there somewhere, and he needs to be at the top, and everything else will fall into section. If you're number one, if all you're about is yourself and me getting wherever I can be, it's not going to work. The whole thing is going to fall, and I can tell you that for certain is because with me, I'm all about the music. I'm passionate about it. For me, it's not about me at all. It has always been about God and the music with me. From a little kid, I started directing the choir at 5 years old. I was teaching parts. So they consider me a prodigy. I consider myself, I just did it. I didn't understand anything. But at 5 years old, I was playing the drums and the organ, and I was teaching parts, directing, doing it all at 5 years old, singing solos, doing it. I was just doing, it was just a part of me, but I never looked at it as me. I looked at it like, okay, I want to help people sing, because I've always been that person that wanted to bring a mass of people together. And that's why whenever I got a mass choir, work with a mass choir, it always came together, because they can pick up from me that it's not about me. And when you do something and it's not about you, but it's about God, he's going to take you places that you never thought you'd be. Who would have thought I've been sitting in here on the radio station? Nobody. Actually, nobody. Definitely not me. But because I focused on God and made sure that whatever I did, he was incorporated and he guided my steps. So that's what I'm trying to encourage you to do. There are 4 parts to this, but I'm starting with you, because you have to be on par. You have to be ready in order to do it. Some people want to do the job, and I see that so much, and I just kind of sit there and look at people, and I see all kinds of stuff. They want to skip over the training and get to the prominence, but that's not how it works. You have to go through the process, and in going through the process, you are developed, you are trained, you are humbled, you are settled, you are so many things that happen to you in that process. And you think at where I am now in my early 50s, and I started at 5. So there's a lot of training and trouble and things that I had to go through in order to get to where that I am now. So that when I stand before people, I don't even have to do anything. When I walk up, they already know this girl don't play. Let's get this on, because she's gonna, I stand there and, everybody, and that's one thing, you have to develop your own style. You have to develop your own style. Now, some people, when they first encounter me, they're scared. They're scared, but after they work with me a while, they understand me. Now, I'm the type of director or directress, because I'm a female, but when I hear somebody out of tune, I look right at whoever it is. And, if it's a soprano, I can hear you all the way in the back, and I, look at you, it's like, don't do that, or if I'm with the musicians and I hear, the wrong chord, because I'm a musician, I'm like, that's not what I said, and I look right at them while they're doing it, and they just look, at first it's like, oh my gosh, she looked at me. But as they begin to work with me, they know I'm not being evil, but I'm just looking at you, I got to do something, because I know the audience heard it. Some of the best singers, the best musicians are sitting in the audience. And how many times have I sat in the audience and heard things and saw things and just kind of sit there like, oh my God. But again, all you have to do is put God first and have your structure. Learn from other people. Don't be closed-minded. Whereas it's like, I don't want to learn. I got it. I know, that's a downfall for so many people when you do that. When you at the point where you figure, well, I can't learn from anybody. I know what I got to do, blah, 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 blah. Remember, everything doesn't work for everybody. It may have worked. Yeah, sometimes they call me little Dr. Maddie Moss Clark. That is a huge compliment because she was a phenomenal lady. I mean, I used to just watch her from the bleachers in the choir, way in the back somewhere. But that doesn't mean that I am her. I'm not going to throw a blue shoe across the stage because I'm not going to do that. I mean, I love that lady, but I'm not her. You have to learn to develop your own style and your own way of doing things. Myself, my directing is a combination. I learned sight reading, so I do sometime. And then I used to be a dancer. My dad was a dance instructor, so I learned a lot of stuff from there. So you see me, it's no telling what I'm gonna do because I just go according to the spirit when I get up there. So you learn to develop your style, learn to develop envision how you want the choir. Envision where you want them to go. Do you want them to be competition? Do you want them to be recording? Do you just want them to be in-house? Are you going to separate the teams? Are you going to have a radio choir? Are you going to have this? You know what I'm saying? You have to sit down and actually think and get you a mentor. I keep telling people that. Get a mentor. You need somebody that you can follow that's doing the right thing, not with the bad attitudes and all of that kind of stuff. No, we don't need that. We got enough of that going on in this world. But what we need, you follow somebody who's doing it the right way, in a good way, that you see God is working through them. Develop from that, draw from them and learn from them. Kashawn says, that's why I love you. Kashawn, that's my little brother. He said, that's why I love you. You always teach with wisdom and knowledge. But what makes your teaching effective is because you bring your experience. Exactly. You have to. And that's one thing about teaching. And even when you're in rehearsal, sometimes you have to stop rehearsal and give a history lesson or a life lesson. That's part of it. It's not just we come here and we just singing songs and keep moving. There has to be more. You have to be multifaceted in your spirit in order to deal, because you don't know who needs what. You understand? So that's why, as a director, you really have to take the time to grow and develop and be around people who are growing and developing, and it'll help you. Kevin McGee says, I told you that you would be great on the radio. Thanks, Doc. Exactly. You have to do what works for you. Stephanie says, you are my mentor. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. Ella Dennis Griffin said, amen. Be yourself. Exactly. You have to be. Thank you, Laduska. She said, I'm enjoying you, sis. Hey, yes, IMD. We rock. And my mom is out here. Thank you, Kiara, for being in here with us as well. And also, I was thinking, there's a psychology to music. We don't think about it, but that's what we use when we're singing, when we're directing, when we're playing, when we're soloing. There's a form of psychology that's going on behind that in music. And a lot of people, it affects the listeners. It affects you. It affects the service. It affects the spirit of the service. The spirit of God is able to move because we understand what's going on. Sometimes there is a science and there is a spirit behind how we select songs to sing. As a director, it should be innate in you. So a plethora of songs, hymns, all kinds of praise and worship, congregational. I mean, whatever, because you don't know which way the service is going to go. And sometimes sometimes on Sundays, when I'm sitting there, and you can just look at people and kind of sense that something is going on. And then you need to find a song quickly that will uplift. Sometimes the whole service and everybody can be happy and jovial and whatever. But I see that one person that's not there, and a song will jump in my heart to give to them to help lift them. So, I mean, our jobs are so vast. And we have the organizing part, but then we also have the music psychology part. And that's the part that we're going to talk about on next week. I thank you all for joining me on tonight. I enjoy you. I hope you enjoy me from these hearts and comments and things you did. Intellectual Radio, thank you for welcoming me in the family. I'm so glad to be here. Next week, we will talk about music psychology and how it affects the listeners and how it affects you and everybody else that takes it in the ear. Thank you all for joining me on tonight. You are wonderful. I love you all, and peace.